Hey, what's up everybody? It is Kellen here from Start Your Systems, and welcome to another MX Simulator official track gameplay. Round number 5 of Supercross is here, and we are back in California this week going to Oakland, and it's actually going to be a day race this year for some reason in Oakland. I don't know if they've ever done a day race in Oakland or even this early in the season, but it is. So I'm just now realizing that the track builders for this track maybe should have realized that and made it a day race in this game, but it's a night track, which personally speaking, they should always do night races. I think the day races are kind of blah. But yeah, this track built by the MXSEMF track crew, again, as they always do, coming up with another pretty awesome track. Flowed really well for the MX Simulator Pro race, which happened last night. Seemed like everybody got along with the track pretty well. A road dug down pretty deep in the first corner. That was sketchy. It actually kind of uniquely enough got all the way to the plywood, which there's like an extra layer of a road underneath of like the surface layer. And so if you do it right or whatever, you can get all the way down to the plywood. I don't think I'll do that in this video. I'm only running a road on 10 in this video. I'm trying to kind of tone it back down just a little bit, since I was running on like I think 22 in the last video, 20 in the video before that. It's a little much. Like, I got to a point in those videos where I was crashing on half the track because the road had dug down so deep and I kept crashing and making it worse. So toned it down. The ruts will still form, you might still see them, but yeah, this is the track, this is what it looks like, and of course breaking it down into the real life spiel of what's going on. So Phoenix last week in real life, I was there. I don't know if you saw me or if I saw you or anybody like that, but yeah, I was walking around a little bit. We got there at probably like, I guess it ended up being like an hour before it started, which it started like 5:30 for opening ceremonies, but technically 6 for racing. We got there at like 4:45ish. I like that stadium. It's a good stadium. It's a good venue to race, and that track was awesome for racing. It seemed like everybody had got it like fairly well dialed by the night show. And my favorite thing about Phoenix that all these other like garbage racetracks have now is Phoenix actually holds up. Like, the dirt stays pretty hard packed and doesn't get like deep rutted crappiness. You know, ruts are cool and stuff, but I just feel like Supercross, it's almost like a BMX race. Like, it should be more of like the rhythm lanes stay intact, the whoops maybe get cupped out a little bit but stay mostly there. Yeah, sure, there can be ruts in the corners, but it does kind of detract from the racing when there's these perfectly groomed ruts all the way through the corners, because for anybody to even make a block pass, they pretty much have to run over a gaggle of ruts to get it there. So I like when the track stays a little bit harder, and that's what Phoenix did. Obviously, it got kind of blue groove like it always does. And I think it made for great racing. In the 450 class, that race was fantastic. The only thing that would have made it better, obviously, is if that ended up being a battle for the win, which it almost was, but a lot different than what happened last year. Well, it's not a lot different, but it is at least different than what happened last year, which, of course, last year, Tomac hole shot and just walked away. This past week, he hole shot and did not get away. He started to pull out a little bit of a lead, and then by about the halfway point, I couldn't tell if he was getting maybe a little tired or tight or what. He said that in the press conference that he kind of like got to a point where he checked himself and kind of regrouped a little bit and started losing pace because of it. So, you know, whether you want to say that he actually did get a little tired or not and he was coming up with an excuse, that's your prerogative. But yeah, about halfway through, it seemed, Barsha started slowly reeling him back in, and by the halfway point, Roxon had finally gotten around Pike, who was doing a masterful job at the beginning of the race, but really kind of held Barsha and Roxon up for a little bit there. And so Roxon was about equidistant behind Barsha, as Barsha was behind Tomac, and gradually through the rest of the main event, they all just started reeling each other in, just slowly but surely, just kind of getting closer and closer, and Barsha would chunk out a couple seconds a lap, and then Tomac would respond, and it just kept kind of yo-yoing a little bit, and they got so close, but it just never really seemed to materialize. But it was still a good race because it was suspenseful. I mean, Barsha and Roxon ended up within a couple seconds of Tomac at the line. Roczen was going faster than both of them for most of the main event anyway. He looked fantastic in the whoops. I mean, if you want to watch perfect form through the whoops, just watch Ken Roczen on those Phoenix whoops, but really any set of whoops. He's got really, really good form where he sets up well. He stays right centered on the bike. He lets the bike kind of work underneath of him. He's so, like, he was one of the only guys by the end of that main event that was still, like, gaining speed towards the end of the whoops. Whereas, like, Tomac, he would get, like, about halfway through and then the bike would kick around a little bit. Barsha was, like, pretty steady, but you could tell he was more or less getting kicked a little bit now and then, and Roczen was just like, he hit the right side of the whoops lap after lap in the same spot, never had an issue. It just looked like fluid motion perfectness. The only person that I saw go through the whoops better than Roczen all night was Malcolm Stewart in the heat race. I didn't watch Mookie too much in the main. I saw him go through the whoops a couple times and he looked good, but man, in the heat race, oh my gosh, Malcolm Stewart in those whoops was like artwork. Is awesome. He's so good in the whoops. He must have learned the technique that his brother had, which is pretty much just send it, but because he's taller than James, he just looks so much more fluid going through the whoops and has, in my opinion, more control over the bike in the whoops than James did, which is crazy to think because I think, you know, like most people do, that James was the most naturally talented rider that the series has ever had. So to say that as good as he was in the whoops, his brother might be better, I mean, I honestly think he might be, maybe not faster, because I think James had a little bit more of like, I don't know, the cojones to do it quicker, but Malcolm is damn good in the whoops. It's good to watch him. But yeah, that main event was a good one. Like I said, if there was a battle for the lead, it would have been a little bit better, but man, it makes things so much more interesting going forward because like Anderson, yeah, he regrouped and got to fourth, but he definitely wasn't the fastest guy on the track this week, and like he didn't look, generally speaking, like terribly comfortable. And yeah, he's a points leader and he still has a points lead, but like now Barsha looks like he's actually a serious title threat right now, and Roczen's kind of getting back into his groove, but they're you know, already like 12 and 15 points back or so. So like it's crazy because I really think we're having like a reverse accordion effect where like now Musquin is kind of back on his game. Like he got fifth this week. I think he's only going to get better from here. And then, you know, obviously Tomac's won 2 weeks in a row and he's in 10th place in the standings, or I think he's moved up to 9th or 8th now, but he's still 35 points back on Anderson, and nobody's ever won the series from being deeper back than I think 27 points. So it's crazy how this is going to work out, but like if Tomac continues to string, which we know he can do, you just have to look at last year to see that. And you know, Roczen's getting better, and Barsha seems like he's at least on Anderson's level now, if not a little bit better. Like it's, like I said, kind of like a reverse accordion where all these guys are going to start catching Anderson in the points, maybe slowly but surely. If it stays this way, obviously it could change. Like maybe Anderson comes out and wins Oakland and throws it all in a big old kerfuffle. But as of right now, I mean, it, like I said, it just totally looks like it's a complete opposite field form right now. Like if Musquin had finished second, it would realistically be like backwards order of how it is with these guys. But it's cool. Like I like that this championship is so wide open. Like first time in this decade that it's, I mean, unless everybody gets hurt and some other guy with the first name Ryan comes in, it's the first time in this decade someone not named Ryan is going to win a championship in the 450 class, and it seems like it's pretty dang wide open. So that's really cool because it would have sucked a little bit to go from this domination era of the Ryans, and then before that, you know, Chad, James, and Ricky pretty much dominated that whole decade before. It would have kind of sucked to have another just dominating, boring year, and it definitely looks like it's far from that in this 450 class. So that's pretty cool. As for this weekend in Oakland, Oakland last year broke down really bad, got really deep and rutted. It tends to do that, but I don't think it'll be as bad this weekend. I did glance at the forecast and didn't see any rain for this weekend. That was the problem that happened last year, and pretty much with most races last year, was that there was a little bit of rain going on like on Thursday and Friday leading up to the race, so they basically built the track while it was raining, which means that the dirt sets as like this mucky, deep, like, I don't know, like almost like silt stuff. It doesn't make for a good racetrack because it usually breaks down really quick, and Oakland did last year, but it still will break down a lot more than Phoenix did. The ruts will get kind of worn in. And obviously Tomac came from pretty far back to get Dungey last year, so I wouldn't put it past him to maybe win this week. But I don't know. I don't know if Tomac is quite the same guy he was last year. Like when he won Phoenix last year, he killed everybody. I mean, it wasn't even close. Like Roxon, well, obviously Rox was out of the series, but like Dungey wasn't even close to his pace, and nobody else racing that night. I mean, Reed finished second at Phoenix, and Tomac was a step above everybody else, and then he came back the next week at Oakland and then pretty much killed everybody again. Came from so far back to get Dungey for the win that it's hard to bet against him. But like I said, he just doesn't seem like kind of the same guy after that crash at Anaheim. Yes, he's won the last 2 weeks. I'm not saying that he can't win, but I think he's maybe just a little bit more timid, maybe still kind of nursing that shoulder injury a little bit. Maybe he was actually tired in Phoenix, and the more rutted out the track and crazy gnarly that it gets like that, the more tired it makes you, because the more you have to work your body and stuff. So if Tomac doesn't win this weekend, I really could see Barcia getting up here and winning one of these things, which is mind-blowing to think that he's still on a temporary deal. He hasn't signed for the full year yet with factory Yamaha. I'm sure that's going to come soon, but if it doesn't come, somehow, some way, Barcia would be a free agent after San Diego this year. That's how his contract is written right now. And he's second in the championship, and I really think he could win this weekend, and that would be crazy, because if Anderson finishes like fourth again and Barcia wins, then Barcia pretty much takes over the championship lead, or at least will be pretty close. So to think that maybe the championship leader doesn't even have a ride after the 6th round of the season is pretty gnarly. But like I said, I think Barcia's going to get a ride with at least Yamaha. If not, someone else will definitely step up. But Yamaha would be absolutely dumb to let him go at this point. Yeah, I think I'd have to go with Tomac or Barcia. I think Roxon's still just not comfortable with his arm yet, and like I said, the rutted tracks and stuff, it takes a lot out of you physically to ride that stuff, especially upper body. So I just don't see Roxon winning on like a rutted out track, but he looked great at Phoenix, so they have more of this blue groove stuff like I'm sure they'll have in Dallas and whatnot. Definitely could see Roxon winning in maybe those couple races. Yeah, but I don't know. I got Tomac or Barcia this week, and love to hear your picks, of course, as always in the comment section below, and briefly touching on the 250 class here at the end of this video, because the 450 class is so crazy, I feel like I have to go real in-depth with it. But yeah, 250 class is pretty cool. Joey Savacci absolutely nailed a hole shot from the way outside, had to go through the LCQ after his crash in the heat, so won the LCQ with a really far outside gate pick there. And I kind of wondered in regards to that, like he ended up with, I think he ended up actually having like 20th gate pick in the LCQ, so he ended up way outside, and he ripped a hole shot there, and then did pretty much the same thing in the main event. And I've always kind of wondered, like, if guys were just kind of man up and try to take those outside gates in the main events for long start straights like that, like what it benefits for Savacci to do that was he ends up lined up next to a bunch of guys that are on underpowered bikes, so like anybody 5 left or 5 right of him is not going to get as good of a start as him. Like, it's just facts. Those 250Fs that the Pro Circuit guys build are much better than a lot of the privateer 250Fs that he would be around. So as you saw, he got out of the gate, nobody was left to right of him. He could kind of control his own destiny going into turn 1. He actually wasn't even close to McElrath going into the first corner, but he was able to brake so late and arc the corner because of his angle that he was still able to get the hole shot. And like, I wonder if more guys could try that on long starts like that, but I also wonder if he would have even gotten that hole shot had he not seen how it's supposed to happen in the LCQ, where he did the same thing and got the hole shot, but obviously a little lesser competition in that race. So just some thoughts and opinions about that. I would seem to believe that he would only be able to get it having tried that start once, but I'd be curious to see more guys at least try to do that every now and then. But yeah, as for the race, he definitely was still pretty beat up, was Savacci, from his heat race crash. I mean, he slammed the loops pretty good. I heard he maybe bruised some bones in his leg or something like that, and also had little problems breathing with his chest. But I think he's all good to go for this weekend. But yeah, he wasn't able to keep McElrath at bay for much longer. I mean, he held the lead for 4 or 5 laps. Then McElrath got him. Then Plessinger got him like half a lap later or so. And then, I mean, I was damn impressed with Plessinger. He really has never been known to be like blue groove hard pack type of guy. He's got kind of like a wild style and works really good in the ruts. He's like a GNCC guy, so I just didn't expect him to be as good as he was in Phoenix. But yeah, after Shane got into the lead, I kind of thought, McElrath or Plessinger, he'll get to the second, but I just don't think that he'll get to McElrath once he gets there. And then yeah, past Savachi, got to McElrath within a couple laps, and then they kind of traded paint a little bit, and then Plessinger finally got him and then really aggressively shut the door going down the rhythm section after the Supercross triple. And I heard a lot of people say like, it's a real dirty move and kind of a crappy move by Plessinger. And yeah, if you watch it, it doesn't look all that great. And I'm definitely not a fan of cross jumping or just crossing over mid lane. But I really think that like McElrath should have at least maybe expected him to come over a little bit more. Not as much as he did, but I'm kind of surprised McElrath stayed in the spot he did. Like if I were Shane coming out of that corner, I would have tried to go as far right down the side of the track as I could and just like make Plessinger think I'm not even there and then sneak down the inside in the next corner. But obviously I'm not a pro, so I wouldn't really know what was going through his mind and what the best move was there. I'm just telling you what I think may have done a little bit better for him. Either way, Shane saved a big time near crash because Plessinger came over and Shane kind of like reacted by checking up really bad and then cased the double that was right after the Supercross triple and then swapped, and then there was another double right after that he almost crashed on. Like it could have been bad. So I understand why people were mad at Plessinger because it made it a lot gnarlier that Shane almost crashed, and if he did crash it would have looked horrific. But Shane able to ride out of it, and I think if he was just maybe expecting it a little bit more, it wouldn't have been as bad. Not condoning Plessinger's move. I think that it was a tad much, but I think it was just circumstantial that it ended up looking as bad as it did. And if Shane didn't like crash, I don't know if people would even be talking about it, or kind of crash, not crash, but look like he was going to. But either way, like I said, Plessinger really surprised me, rode fantastic, got away from McElrath after that incident, and just pretty much kind of cruised to the win. I was really impressed. He looks like he's here to play for this series. Even on non-rutted tracks, he's looking good and comfortable and looked great at Houston when it got rutted, but now he wins on a track that really had not that many ruts and was really more about flat-out speed. So as long as he can keep figuring out starts, which he got like a fairly decent one this week, I think he's in this thing for the title. But it was starts last year that killed him, and then inconsistency too. He would crash a lot, so we'll see with that. But either way, this championship in that class is just as good as the 451. Savachi, AC are not too far behind McElrath and Plessinger, which are now at the front. Plessinger took the points lead by, it might be 1 or 2 over McElrath, and then Savachi's another 3 back of McElrath, and Cianciarulo's only, I think he's like 10 or 12 back. It's crazy though. Those guys are all real close. The racing's good in both classes. I'm definitely excited to see what Oakland is like this weekend and how those guys race and all that business. I think for this weekend in Oakland, I think I got to go Plessinger again. Like I said, the track's going to break down a little bit more than Phoenix, and he's really good when it gets rutted out and gnarly. The only thing that might be kind of a deficiency for him is the start isn't that long, and he tends to get bad jumps. But if he gets a decent one, or even if he's top 5, like I think it'd be tough to bet against him. So I know that's pretty bland, pretty much picking the 2 guys that just won last week is maybe winning this weekend, but I think just prior history and track knowledge and stuff like that, you kind of have to go with those guys. I'd love to see Cianciarulo get up there and win one of these things to close him down in the points chase, because that would really kind of throw a wrench in the front three's plans, I feel. But he's so weird about his starts. Like sometimes he gets great starts in his heats. I think he got a great start in one of his mains at A2, and then he got a terrible start at Phoenix, like got around the first corner and just inside of the top 10 or so, and worked his way up to about 5th by the end of the first lap, but he was already so far behind of the guys out front, which was pretty much all the top guys. So if he could get his starts figured out, I think he's just in there as well. But I mean, any of those guys can win this weekend. It's really about starts and consistency, and I mean, we'll know more about it once race day hits, but right now it's kind of wide open. Either way, though, that's Oakland. That is the track in MX Simulator, and yeah, good funs. Be sure to download this track in the description below if you want to try it out. Definitely recommend playing it. It's a pretty fun track. And yeah, thank you guys for watching as always. If you guys liked the video, don't hesitate to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And let me know in the comment section what you think about this weekend. Love to hear your guys' picks or any bench racing that you have to discuss with me. I'm all ears. Thanks for watching another video here on Start Your Systems. And we'll see you guys in the next one. So long for now.